Hi, welcome to another episode of Mr. Max. In this lesson, we are going to revise from November 2018, question number 4, 5, and 6. That means graph section. Okay, November 2018, question number 4, 5, and 6. Graph questions. Question number 4. In the diagram below, the graph of f of x is equal to ax squared is drawn in the interval x is less than or equal to 0. So, there is an equation f of x is equal to ax square in the interval x is less than or equal to 0. Okay. So, there is a graph drawn like this. There is a graph f of x is equal to a squared is drawn in the interval x is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so the graph is like this. You can see there on the graph paper, on the question paper, there is a graph like this, and the name of that graph is f. Okay, and what is the equation of that graph? F of x is equal to ax squared and x is less than or equal to 0. X is less than or equal to 0 means what? This is the x-axis, am I right? This one is the x-axis. X is less than or equal to 0 means from here to this side, only that side. Okay. Now, the graph of f inverse is also drawn. So, there is another graph is drawn here like this, and that is f inverse graph. Okay, now is also drawn. P minus 6 comma minus 12 is a point on f and r is a point on f inverse. So on this f graph there is a point here and that is P. Okay, and what is the coordinate of that point? Minus 6 comma minus 12. Okay, and there is another point on this f inverse graph. This is R. Okay, so there are 2 points given, one is P and the other one is R. Okay, and that point P is on f of x graph and the point R is on f inverse of x graph. Okay, so this is f inverse graph. Okay, now based on this condition, these are the given things. Okay, and based on this one you have to find the answers of the remaining question. First question is 4.1. What is that one? Is f inverse a function? Motivate your answer. F inverse. Which one is f inverse? This one. This is f inverse. Am I right? This one is f inverse. So your question is this function, the f inverse is a function or not? This f inverse is a function or not? So to answer that one, you have to know what is the meaning of function. What is the meaning of function? Function means for every x value only one y value. Okay, so let me draw that f inverse of only the f inverse of x graph here. This is our f inverse of x graph. This is our f inverse of x graph. Okay, so let me take one x value. Okay, this is the x-axis. This is the x-axis and this one is the y-axis. Okay, so let me take one x value here. Let's say minus 1. Okay, so how many y values? How can you find the corresponding y value? You have to draw a line to the graph and check here. How many y values you got? Only one y value, that is this point. Okay, let me take a point here, x value here. How many y values are there? Only one y value. Am I right? Okay, let me take a point here, one x value here. How many y values we are getting? Only one y value, that is this one. Okay, that means for every x value you are getting only one corresponding y value. It means that this function, if this one f inverse is a function. Okay, so what is the question? Is f inverse a function? Motivate your answer. Okay, so what you are going to write as an answer? Yes. First you have to write yes. So that is very important. You have to write yes or no. Okay, for 1 mark is for that one, yes or no. Okay, so yes, and what is the reason? For every x values only one corresponding y value. So for every x values there is only one corresponding y value. Therefore we can say that it is a function. Okay, so I told you for this x value how many y values we got? Only one y value. For this x value how many y values we got? Only one y value. That means for every x value we are getting only one y value. So therefore we can say that that f inverse is a function. Okay, so that is question number 4.1. now let's go to question number 4.2. Okay, what is question number 4.2? If R is the reflection of P, if R is the reflection of P in the line y is equal to x, write down the coordinates of R. It's a simple question. What is the question? We are saying that this point R is the reflection of this P. Okay, based on which line? Based on the line y is equal to x. Write down the coordinates of R. What is the meaning of that question, guys? Let me draw that graph here once more. Let me draw that graph here. Okay, so this is our f graph. Okay, and let me draw it once more. Okay, so here this is the point P and it is given as -6 comma -12, and this is the point R. Okay, and what is the question? You have to find the coordinates of this R. Okay, and what is this R? Look at that question 4.2. If R is the reflection of P based on the line in the line y is equal to x. Which line is called y is equal to x? Y is equal to x means the line passing through this center. That means there is a line passing through the center like this, and the name of that line is called y is equal to x. Okay, that line is called y is equal to x. Okay, so this point, they are saying that this point R is the reflection of this point P. Okay, so you have to understand one thing. If a point reflect based on the line y is equal to x, what you are supposed to do? Question number 4.2. 4.2, if a point is reflected based on the line y is equal to x, what you are supposed to do? You studied in small classes. If the reflection is based on the line y is equal to x, this is the line, this dotted one is the line y is equal to x passing through the center. Okay, and if the reflection is based on this line y is equal to x, then this is what you want to do. This x comma y, this coordinate changes to y comma x. Don't forget that. If the reflection is based on the line y is equal to x, then x comma y changes to y comma x. So now if you know this one, then it is easy. What is the coordinate of P? P is -6 comma -12. So can you say what is the coordinate of R? X comma y changes to y comma x. So it means that the coordinate of R is -12 comma, okay, let me write this. So what is the coordinate of R? Coordinate of R is, therefore the coordinate of R is y comma x. Y comma x, that means here it is -12 comma x is -6. So to answer that question, you have to understand that if the reflection is based on the line y is equal to x, that dotted line, okay, then what is the condition? X comma y changes to y comma x. Okay, so the answer, coordinate of R is, now we know that the coordinate of this R is minus 12 comma minus 6. Okay, so that is question number 4.2. Now let's go to 4.3. What is question number 4.3? Calculate the value of a. Where is this a? That is this one, f of x is equal to ax square, and here the question is to find the value of this a. How can you find the value of a there? What is this f of x? F of x is a function, so f of x is the same as y. You studied in small classes. This a function we can represent as y, am I right? So y is equal to ax square, and you have to find the value of this a. So where is this f of x graph? This is the graph f of x, am I right? Okay, so do you know any point on that f of x graph? Do you know any point on the f of x graph? Yeah, of course, this p is a point on f of x graph, am I right? Okay, so what we can do here, we can substitute the value of x and y in this equation. Okay, so just try to substitute y is equal. So but here you have to listen one thing, don't substitute this coordinate of this r. Why? Because that point r is not a point on this f of x graph. That is f inverse of x graph point. You understand? So don't substitute the point r, this x and y. Okay, because you have to, this, where is this a? This a is in on f of x graph. So you have to check, is there any point that you know on f of x graph? Oh, okay, there is a point here on f of x graph. So this one is x and this one is y. Okay, so y is equal to, what is y? Minus 12. So minus 12 is equal to a into x square. So it is minus 6 square. Okay, so it is minus 12 is equal to a into minus 6 square is 36. So it is 36. So how can you find a? You have to understand that one. Here a is, I know what you are going to say, divide both the sides 36. Okay, just avoid that grade 10, grade 11 method. Okay, here this is multiplication. So if I want to take this 36 to this side, what must I do? Division. Here on the right side it is multiplication. So if I want to take this 36 to the left side, it must be division. Okay, so this minus 12 is already there, divided by 36. Check in your calculator, what is minus 12 by 36? Okay, so it is minus 1. You can check in your calculator and you will get a as minus 1 over 3. Okay, now look at the next question, question number 4.4. Question number 4.4. What is that question? 4.4. Write down the equation of f inverse in the form of y is equal to. Okay, what is the question? You have to write the equation of f inverse. Okay, so what is our f of x? Let me write the f of x. A you already got the value. What is a value you got here? Minus 1 over 3, am I right? Okay, so just write that one, minus 1 over 3 x square. So that is our f of x graph. And here what is the question? You have to find the, look at that question, write down the equation of f inverse in the form of y is equal. That's a frequent question, you know, almost every year you can see that type of questions. Okay, so you have to write the equation of this f inverse x graph. So now before I go to that one, what is this f of x? F of x is a function that is the same as y. Okay, so y is equal to minus 1 over 3 x. You can write it like that because this f of x is the same as y. Okay, now to find f inverse, what you are supposed to do? To find f inverse, what you are supposed to do? To find f inverse, what you are supposed to do? You have to know that one. To find f inverse, you have to swap x and y. Okay, that means this y becomes x and this x becomes, is it not 1 minus 1 over 3 x square? Okay, so this y becomes x and this x becomes y. Okay, so look at how I am going to write. X is equal to, I wrote this y as x. Okay, minus 1 over 3 x square. So what must I write? Y square. Okay, so listen once more. To find f inverse, what you are supposed to do, you have to swap this x and y. Okay, you have to swap x and y. This y becomes x and x becomes y. Do you remember we did a similar one? When the reflection is based on the line y is equal to x, what we did? There also we swap x and y. Do you remember that one? Okay, so two things you have to remember. If the question is reflection based on the line y is equal to x, you are supposed to swap x and y. Then if you want to find the inverse, f inverse, there also you are supposed to swap x and y. Okay, so where you are supposed to swap x and y? When the question is to find the reflection based on the line y is equal to x, you swap x and y. When you want to find f inverse, you swap x and y. In both cases, same method. You swap x and y. Okay. Now I swapped here x and y. X is equal to this y became x. This x becomes y. Okay. So look at the question once more. You have to. They want the answer in the form of y is equal to. So our y is this one. Okay. So we have to write it in that form. Y is equal to. So for that, what I'm going to do is. This 3 is in the denominator, am I right? So if I take this 3 to this side, it is multiplication. This is division. This 3 is division here. So on the other side it is multiplication. So this 3 will come here, multiply. That is 3x is equal to minus y square. So if I multiply or divide both the sides with negative, what is going to happen? Negative 3x is equal to y square. Am I right? Okay. Now, or y square is equal to negative 3x. This one is equal to this one. So we can write that y squared is equal to minus. So same thing. Okay. So what is y? What is y? Y square is equal to this one. So what is y? Y is equal to plus or minus root of minus 3x square. It is very important to write like that. Okay, plus or minus root of minus 3x square. Why it is plus or minus? For example, x square is equal to 16. What is x? Root of 16. Am I right? So what is root of 16? X is equal to plus or minus 4. Root of 16 is plus or minus 4. Either plus 4 or minus 4. You know this one. Why we are saying like this? Okay, if you explain, continue like that, you will go somewhere else. Okay. Anyway, just for understand why we have two answers. What is the answer of this 4 square? Is it positive 16 or negative 16? Positive 16. What is the answer of minus 4 square? Is it positive 16 or negative 16? There also it is positive 16. That means 4 square 16 minus 4 square also 16. That is why when you take square root of 16, you have to write two answers, plus or minus 4. Okay, just leave that one. I gave an example. Now in our question, y squared is equal to minus 3x square. So what is y? Plus or minus, let me write it once more, that one. So what is therefore y is equal to plus or minus root of minus 3x square. Okay. Now here you have to be very careful. You can't leave the answer like this. You have to write the final answer. Now look at our question. This is f inverse. Am I right? What is our question? You have to find the equation of f inverse. Okay. So here look at this one. This red one is f inverse. So in this f inverse graph, what about this y? This is the y axis. Am I right? Okay. What about y? Is it positive or negative? It is negative. It is not going y positive. Do you understand? Okay. So here, even though we write a plus or minus root of minus 3x square, we have to avoid this plus sign, because in this f inverse graph of ours, what is y? Y is negative. Okay, so what we have to write the final, it implies that y is equal to minus root of minus 3x square. You have to specify which one is the correct. Is it positive root of minus 3x square or negative root of minus 3x square? So what is the y value? Negative root of minus 3x. Why we choose negative? Because in this f inverse graph, here the y value is negative, so we have to specify which one is the correct answer. Okay, so that is the answer of that 4.2. Or we can write one more step. It implies that f inverse of x is equal to, this y is the same as f inverse, y is a function. Okay, so f inverse is also a function, so f inverse is equal to minus root of minus 3x square. And that's the answer of question number 4.4. Okay, now let's go to question number 5. Okay, let's go to the next question. Question number 5. What is question number 5? Given f of x is equal to minus 1 over x minus 1. Given f of x is equal to minus 1 over x minus 1. Now that's all. Okay, then based on that one, we have to answer the remaining 4 questions, 5.1 up to 5.4. Okay, now what is the first question? Write down the domain of f. You have to write the domain of f graph. Okay, so now you must have a full idea about this. What type of function is this? This is a hyperbolic function, am I right? Minus 1 divided by x minus 1. Here you can see that the variable is in the denominator, so you know that that is a hyperbolic function. Okay, and what is the general equation of a hyperbolic function? Y is equal to a divided by x minus p plus q. You remember that one? This is the general equation of a hyperbolic function. Okay, now at the same time, this value of a determines what? Now I'm just explaining everything. Okay, so what is this value of a? This value of a determines the position of the graph. So it means that if here it is negative, for example minus 1, okay, here what is the value of a? Negative 1 or minus 1. That means the value of a is negative. Then the shape of the graph is like this. That means on the second quadrant and fourth quadrant, if a is negative. Okay, but in case if here it is positive, then the shape of the graph is here. Okay, so if the value of a is negative, then the shape of the graph is here, and the value of a is positive means the shape of the graph is like this. Okay, now so in our case, what is the shape? This one. This is the shape of our graph. Okay, now come back again to this equation. So I told you, if the value of a is negative means this is the shape. If the value of a is positive, then these two. Okay, fine. Now what is this minus p and q? Those are the what? Asymptotes, that dotted lines. You remember, you already studied. Okay, so x is equal to, what are the equations of the asymptotes here? In this equation, what are the equations of the asymptote? X is equal to, if here it is minus, then x is equal to positive p, and what is the next one? Y is equal to this q. Okay, so x is equal to positive p, or just the opposite. Positive p doesn't mean that always it's positive. If here it is minus, here you have to write a positive. If here it is negative, if here it is positive, here you have to write a negative. Okay, but there is no change for this q. Y is equal to q. Okay, so there are two asymptotes. One is x is equal to p and y is equal to q. Okay, asymptotes. Okay, so now here you have to understand one thing, this y is equal to q is the horizontal asymptote. What is this one? This one is the horizontal asymptote. What is the meaning of horizontal asymptote? Horizontal asymptote means like this. Okay, then this x is equal to q is the vertical asymptote. Vertical asymptote means something like this, vertical line like this. Okay, so this x is equal to p is the vertical asymptote and y is equal to q is the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, when you have a question like this, immediately in your mind all these things will come, must come. Okay, minus means this is the shape of the graph. Okay, second quadrant and fourth quadrant. Then x minus 1, can you say what is the equation of the asymptote? X minus 1 means x is equal to, I told you, positive 1, that is the asymptote. And which asymptote is that one? Is it horizontal or vertical? X is equal to 1. X is equal to 1 means this is the, assume that this is the x and y axis. X is equal to 1 means this one, 1. Okay, and which asymptote is that one? Vertical asymptote. Okay, so here the vertical asymptote is x is equal to 1. Okay, so now almost you have an idea what is the shape of the graph and where are the asymptotes. So just roughly, maybe there is a question to draw. Yeah, 5.3, the question is to draw the graph. Okay, but now just roughly we can just try to understand what is the shape of the graph. Okay, so there is a graph like this, and since x minus 1, what is asymptote? X is equal to positive 1. That means there is a asymptote going through 1. Okay, and we know that since here it is minus, the shape of the graph is on this side and this side. You are supposed to draw based on the asymptote like this. Okay, now so what is this one? X is equal to 1, or the value of x at this point is 1. Okay, now what is the first question? Write down the domain of f. What is the meaning of domain? What is the meaning of domain? This is the x-axis and this one is the y-axis. So now guys, tell me, this is the general shape. Okay, so what is the general rough sketch? I can say it like that. Okay, this is a rough graph of this f of x. Okay, now what is the meaning of domain? That is the first question. Domain means possible x values. This is the x value, am I right? Okay, so what is the meaning of domain? Domain means possible x values. Can you see this is the x-axis and you have to write the possible x values of this one. Okay, so here you can see that our graph is moving to this direction like this, am I right? Okay, so it is coming from here and it is going to that side. There is no end. Okay, at the same time this graph is coming like this and it is going to this side. That means it is moving to both sides, to that side and also to this side here. Okay, but only one x value, there is no graph. Which x value is that? When x is equal to 1, can you find any graph? You know, if I extend this one to this side, okay, and also this graph to this side. Okay, now look at the asymptote. Can you see the asymptote? Okay, so when x is equal to 1, you can't find any point on the graph. When x is equal to 1, can you see that? That is known as asymptote. Okay, so it means that all the other value, if I take x as 2, I can find a point on the graph. If I take x as 3, I can find a point. If I take x as 100, I can take a point, find a point on the graph. Similarly to this side, if I take a x as minus 1, I can find a point on the graph. Minus 2, I can find a point on the graph. Minus 3, I can find a point on the graph. Minus 100, 1 million, I can find a point on the graph. But what about x is equal to 1? Is it possible for me to find a point on the graph on both sides? No. So it means that x can take any real number. All of these ones are real numbers. Okay, but only one condition: when x is equal to 1, there is no value on the graph, or you can't find any point on the graph. Okay, so how can you write that domain? How can you write the answer? Domain is equal to set x such that, okay, you have to read like that. Okay, set x such that x is an element of R. What is the meaning of that? X can take any real number on the number line. Okay, but one condition: x is not equal to 1. It is not possible to be x as 1. Why it is not possible? Because x is equal to positive 1. Here it is minus 1. So what is asymptote? Positive 1. Okay, so when x is equal to positive 1, that is asymptote. That means on asymptote you can't find any point on the graph. Okay, so domain is equal to set x such that, this is just a fashion, that's all. Okay, only meaning is x can take any real number except 1, that's all. Okay, so this is just a notation, that's all. Don't worry about this style, something like this. Okay, the meaning is x can take any real number, but only one condition: x can't be 1, that's all. Okay, so this is how you want to write the domain. 5.1. Okay, now look at question number 5.2. What is question number 5.2? This is 5.1. This one is 5.1. Now let's go to 5.2. What is that question? 5.2. 5.2 question is write down the asymptotes of f. You have to write the asymptotes of f. So one asymptote we already said. What is one asymptote? X is equal to 1. So you have to write x is equal to 1 is one asymptote. Then what about the second? That is which asymptote is x is equal to 1? Vertical asymptote. So what about the horizontal asymptote? Here it is given only like this. Horizontal asymptote is supposed to come here. So if there is nothing, we can write plus 0, no problem. And that is q. Do you remember that one? A divided by x minus p plus q. In our question, nothing written here. That is why we can write it as plus 0. So it means that what is a horizontal asymptote? Q, that is 0. So how can you write the answer? Y is equal to 0. Y is equal to q is the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so y is equal to, in our case, what is q? It is 0. So horizontal asymptote equation is y is equal to 0. So that is 5.2. Now let's go to 5.3. What is that question? Sketch the graph of f clearly showing all intercept with the axis and any asymptote. Okay, so before I go to that one, what is the meaning of this y is equal to 0? Y is equal to 0 means this is the point y is equal to 0. Am I right? This one is y is equal to 0. Okay, so it means that this x-axis itself is an asymptote. That x-axis itself is, this is one vertical asymptote, and this x-axis itself is an asymptote. That is y is equal to 0 means. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Sketch the graph of f clearly showing all intercepts and with the axis. So we have to sketch. We already draw a rough graph, but it is not enough. You won't get mark if you draw a rough graph. Okay, so now look at this one. In this graph, in this rough graph, we can see that this one is a y-intercept. Am I right? This is the y-axis. This one is the y-axis. This one. Okay. So what is the name of this point? That is a y-intercept. So you have to write correctly what is the coordinate of this point, this y-intercept. Is there any x-intercept here? Is there any x-intercept on this graph? There is no x-intercept. Okay, so you have to find what is the y-intercept. Okay, that's all. You already know what is asymptote. Then you can draw x is equal to 1 as the asymptote, and y is equal to 0 is also asymptote. Okay, so the only thing is you have to know what is the y-intercept. Okay, so anyway, let's try to find the y-intercept. Okay, that is question number 5.3. Okay, question number 5.3. Now what is the equation? Write the equation once more. Y is equal to minus 1 divided by x minus 1. Okay, that is the equation. Okay, so we have to find the y-intercept. So what we can write, at y-intercept, what is the value of x? X is equal to 0, the old method, gradient method. Okay, at y-intercept, dual intercept method. Okay, at y-intercept, value of x is equal to 0. So now what you have to do, substitute the value of x as 0 here. Okay, so y is equal to minus 1 divided by x minus 1. What do you want to substitute x as? 0. So 0 minus 1. So y is equal to, what is 0 minus 1? Minus 1. Minus 1 divided by minus 1 is positive 1. Okay, so what is the coordinate now? Coordinate is equal to x value first, that is 0, y value is 1. So it is coordinate is 0 comma 1. So do you remember that one? There is no x-intercept on that graph, that rough graph. Okay, so there is no need to find the x-intercept. You just want to find the y-intercept. Okay, now we have to draw that graph. So this is the y-axis and x-axis. So when you draw this hyperbola, first you have to draw the asymptote. Okay, so we know that what is asymptote? X is equal to 1 is the asymptote. There is no need to draw y is equal to 0 because that is the x-axis itself. This one itself is the horizontal asymptote because it is 0. Okay, then this is assume that this is 1, then this one is the vertical asymptote. X is equal to minus x minus 1 means what is asymptote? X is equal to positive 1, that is this one. Now what is the y-intercept? 0 comma 1. X is 0, y 1. Assume that this is 0 comma 1. This is 1. Okay, now what you have to do, here it is minus 1. So you know where the graph is, on the second position quadrant and fourth quadrant. So you just draw, you are supposed to draw based on this asymptote, don't forget that. Then you just draw a reflection of that, whether it is not compulsory that you have to find a point there. Okay, so you have to find this point, that is important. 1 mark here, 1 mark is for the asymptotes. Okay, so that is question number 5.3. you have to draw the graph. Now next question number 5.4. Question number 5.4. What is that question? For which values of x will x into f dash of x is greater than or equal to 0? You have to find the values of x. Where is our x? This is the x-axis, am I right? Okay, and you have to find, the question is you have to find the x values. Okay, and what is the condition given? X times f dash of x is greater than or equal to 0, greater than or equal to 0. So this is the condition given, x times f dash of x is greater than or equal to 0, and you have to find the values of x. So what is the meaning of that? Anyway, you have to find the values of x. Okay, and what is the condition? You have to find the values of x satisfying this condition, x times f dash of x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so listen here, what is the meaning of this greater than or equal to 0? Greater than or equal to 0 means it's a positive, 0 or positive, am I right? Okay, so x times f dash of x, so it means that two quantities are multiplied and they want the answer is positive, 0 or positive. Two quantities multiplied and they want the answer as positive. You know that if you multiply two quantities, and if you want the answer as positive, it means either this one and this one, both of them must be positive. Positive times positive is positive. Or what is the solution? Both of them must be negative, then also the answer is positive. Okay, so if you want a positive answer, greater than or equal to means positive. Okay, so if you want a positive answer, both of this one must be positive or both of this one must be negative. Both of this one must be positive or both of this one must be negative, then only you will get a positive answer. You understand that one? Okay, now come back to our graph. Okay, so what is this one? X. Which one is x-axis? X values. These are the x values. Okay, so here what is the name of this point? That is the origin. Okay, so after the origin, is x positive or negative? X is positive, am I right? Okay, so after this origin, you can see that here x values are positive, am I right, guys? Okay, after the origin, x value positive. Here on this side, from here to here, x value is negative. All of these x values are negative. Okay, now what is the meaning of this f dash of x? So to study this one, you have to first study calculus section. Okay, so this question is an integration of calculus question and graphs and function. Okay, so in calculus, those who studied calculus, or you have to know what is the meaning of f dash of x and what are the conditions there. Okay, then only you can understand this one. Okay, so anyway, those who studied calculus, they can understand that. Now here this graph, is it increasing or decreasing? Or let me draw a cubic graph. Okay, so doesn't matter cubic or quadratic or whatever maybe. Okay, so anyway, you are familiar with the cubic graph. So assume that this is a cubic graph. So when I explained that calculus section, I told you this cubic graph is increasing here, am I right, up to this turning point. Up to that turning point, it is increasing. Then after that turning point, what is happening? It is decreasing, am I right? Okay, so up to this turning point, it is decreasing. Again, you can see that it is this one is increasing. Okay, so what I told you at that time, when a cubic function is increasing, or when a graph, doesn't matter cubic or quadratic or whatever may be, okay, when a graph is increasing, the first derivative, that is f dash of x, this f dash of x stands for the first derivative. First derivative is greater than 0. When a graph is increasing, the first derivative is greater than 0. So what about here? The graph is decreasing, that means the first derivative is less than 0 means negative, greater than 0 means positive. Okay, so when a graph is increasing, the first derivative is positive. When a graph is decreasing, the first derivative is negative. So what about here? Again, you can see that it is increasing, that means the first derivative is greater than 0. Okay, so keep it in your mind that if a graph increases, first derivative is positive. If a graph decreases, first derivative is negative. Okay, now look at our graph. Our graph, this one, this graph, is it increasing or decreasing? This one, look at this one. Is it increasing or decreasing? Definitely it is increasing, am I right? So if a graph is increasing, what is the first derivative f dash of x? It is positive. So here you can see that here all of this one is a positive because the graph is increasing. So the first derivative is, I'm talking about the first derivative. Okay, first derivative is positive. Okay, here what is happening? Is the graph increasing or decreasing? When x increases, the graph also increasing. Okay, so here also you can see the graph is increasing. So it means that f dash of x is greater than 0. Okay, since the graph is increasing, f dash of x is, I told you, since the graph is increasing, f dash of x is greater than 0. Okay, so here increasing, so what about f dash of x? Greater than 0. Here increasing, so f dash of x is greater than 0. Okay, now look at this one. This is negative and this side is positive, x value positive. Okay, x value negative, x value positive. Here positive, positive. Now we have to think about the multiplication. Okay, so now look at this one, guys. Here this one is negative, am I right? This one is positive. So if you multiply this positive and negative, what is your answer? Positive times negative is negative, am I right? Okay, so here if you multiply these two, x and f dash of x, it is negative. We don't want that one, we want the positive one, am I right? Okay, so you won't get the answer here. What about here? This is x0. Okay, so what about here? Positive, positive, positive times positive is positive. So that is what we want. That means when x is greater than 0, if you multiply x and f dash of x, it is positive. Positive times positive, positive times positive, up to here. Am I right? Okay, then after that, what is happening here also? What about at 1, x1? When x is equal to 1, there is no graph. Am I right? Okay, so we can't take a x is equal to 1 because there is no graph there at that point. That is asymptote. Okay, but after 1, what is happening? Positive, f dash of x is positive, x is also positive. So positive times positive, positive times positive, positive times positive, it is positive. Okay, so it means that when x is greater than or equal to 0, when x is greater than or equal to 0, the, or we can say like this, between 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 1, I mean not less than or equal to, you can't take a equal to sign there. Okay, so 0 less than or equal to x less than 1, the graph is positive. I mean the product of this one, x and f dash of x, is positive because here positive times positive is positive. X is positive, f dash of x is positive. So positive times positive is positive. Here also after 1, on 1 what is happening? There is no graph. Okay, so there is nothing there. Then after 1 what is happening? Here positive, here also positive. That means 1 less than x less than or equal to, I mean not less than or equal to, less than infinity. It is going to that side. Okay, so there is no limit for this positive, 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 that x-axis, and this graph also going to that side. That means up to infinity. Okay, so this is the answer. When 0 to 1, when you multiply x and f dash of x, it is positive. After 1, when you multiply f dash of x and x, it is positive. Okay, so that is question number 5.4. now let's go to question number 6. Okay, question number 6. In the diagram below, a and b are the x-intercept of the graph of f of x is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. A straight line through A cuts f at c 4,5 and the y-axis 0,1. M is the point on f and n is a point on g such that mn is parallel to the y-axis. Mn cuts the x-axis at t. Okay, anyway, let's draw that graph. Then from there we can understand what are the given things and what you want to find. Okay, so there is a graph given like this. Okay, so this is the graph given in that question. So look at the question now. Look at that sentence. In the diagram below, A and B are the x-intercept of the graph of f of x is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. So there is an equation, f of x is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. So what type of equation is this? x square means it's a quadratic equation. Okay, so equation of f of x is given. So which one is the f of x? This quadratic, this parabola. Okay, so the equation of this is our f of x graph, and the equation also given, and they are saying that this a and b are the x intercept. This is the x axis. Okay, so this a and b are the x intercepts. A straight line G through A cuts F at C 4,5. So there is another straight line. You can see that there is another straight line going like this. Okay, and that straight line cuts this f of x graph at this point C 4,5. Okay, now what? And the y axis at 0, 1. So here at this point, this is the y intercept, and here at this point the value of y is 1. Okay, then m is a point on f and n is a point on g. So here you can see that this m is a point on f graph and n is a point on g of x graph. Okay, and what else? Such that mn is parallel to the y-axis. So this line mn is parallel to this y-axis. This line and this y-axis are parallel. Okay, now mn cuts the x-axis at t. So here you can see that this is the x-axis. Okay, so here at this point it is t. So these are the given things, and based on that you have to answer the following questions. Okay, all that 6 questions, or we can say 7 questions. Okay, so all those questions are based on this graph. Okay, now one by one we can try to solve. Show that g of x is equal to x plus 1. You have to show that g of x, which one is our g of x? That straight line graph, this is g of x, am I right? This graph, this straight line graph is our g of x. Okay, so you have to find, in effect you have to find the equation of g of x. Since g of x is a straight line, what is the general equation? What is the general equation of a straight line? Y minus 6.1. What is the general equation? Y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. You remember general equation of a straight line graph. Okay, you have to find the general equation of that straight line graph g of x. Okay, so here what is this m stands for? M stands for the gradient of that straight line. Okay, so guys, listen here. Once if you have a question like this, don't think anything else. What do you want to find? You just start with that one, then automatically step by step it will come to your mind. Okay, so here what I started, I want to find the equation of g of x. That is the question. Okay, so immediately, okay, g of x is a straight line, so immediately let me write the general equation of a straight line. Now automatically in my mind it is coming, okay, what is this m? M stands for the gradient. Is it there any way to find the gradient? Now I am thinking, oh okay, I know 2 points. At this point y value is 1. This is the y-intercept. So what is the x value? 0. Am I right? At y-intercept x is 0. So it means that this point is 0, 1. And also this point C is a point on that g of x graph. So I have 2 points, so I can easily find a gradient. What is the formula? Gradient m is equal to y2 minus, you know this formula, you have to by heart this formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Just substitute the values. Let's say take this one as x1 x2 y2, and this is x1 y1. So what is that? Y2 5 minus y1 1 divided by x2 4 minus what is x1? 0. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So it is 4 divided by 4 minus 0 is 4. That means the gradient of that line g of x is 1. Now what is our general equation? Y minus, this is our general equation, don't forget that. Okay, this is our general equation. Now in that general equation, what is this x1 and y1? Any one point on that graph. Am I right? Okay, x1 and y1 stands for any one point on that graph. So either you can take this point or this point. Let me take this point because this point 0, 1 is also a point on that graph. That is easy because there is 0 there. Okay, so let me substitute therefore y minus y1. What is at this point? What is y1? So y minus 1 is equal to m. You already got the value of m as 1. So 1 into x minus x1. What is x1 at this point? It is 0. Okay, I substituted the values of x1 and y1, 0 and 1 on this equation, general equation. Okay, and this m we already got as 1. Okay, so y minus 1 is equal to x minus 0 is x. 1 into x is x. Am I right? X minus 0 x. 1 into x is x. Okay, so take this minus 1 to the other side. So y is equal to x plus 1. Actually this y is the same as g of x, a function. Okay, so therefore g of x is equal to x plus 1, and that is what we want to find. Okay, so that is question number 6.1. Now let's go to question number 6.2. Question number 6.2. 6.2, what is that question? Calculate the coordinates of a and b. You have to find the coordinates of a and b. Okay, so these are simple questions. What is that a and b? A and b are the x-intercepts. Am I right? Those points a and b are the x-intercept. Do you know the equation of that parabola? Yes, that is given. F of x is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. So that point a and b are the x-intercept. So how can you find? Yeah, at x-intercept, you know that what is the value of y? At x-intercept, value of y is equal to 0. So let's write that equation once more. This is the equation of that parabola. Okay, so y is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. Okay, and you have to find the x-intercept. At this a and b are the x-intercept. So at x-intercept, what is the value of y? Y is 0. So substitute the value of y as 0 here. So let me avoid one step. What we are supposed to write? 0 is equal to this one. That is the same as this one is equal to 0. Right? Okay. So let me write this one first. X square minus 2x minus 3 is equal to, what is y? You have to substitute the value of y as 0. So that one is equal to 0. Now you have to factorize this one. What are the factors, guys? You must have to study factorization. Almost all the topics we have to factorize. Okay, what are the factors? X, then minus 3 plus 1. Am I right? Minus 3 into 1 is minus 3. Minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2. So it means that either x minus 3 is equal to 0, two quantities multiplied, and the answer is 0. It means either this one is equal to 0 or this one is equal to 0, or x plus 1 is equal to 0. So what is x from here? Take this minus 3 to the other side. So it is positive 3. 0 plus 3, that is 3. How can you find x here? Take this positive 1 to the other side. So it is minus 1. So it is minus 1. So now what are the y values? Both a and b, y is 0, x-intercept y is 0. So we got two values, that is 3 and minus 2 x values, that is 3 and minus 1. So how can you write the coordinate? 3, 0 and minus 1, 0. So which one is a? Is it this 3, 0 or minus 1, 0? A is on the negative side. Am I right? A is on the negative side. So this is our A and this one is our B. Okay. So coordinate of A is minus 1, 0 and coordinate of B is 3, 0. Okay. So that is question number 6.2. Okay. Now let's go to question number 6.3. Okay. Okay, question number 6.3. What is this question number 6.3 saying? Determine the range of f. Determine the range of f. What is the meaning of this range? What is the meaning of a range means? Range. Range means possible y values. Range means what? Possible y values. Okay. So here you have to find the range of f of x graph. That is, let me draw that f of x graph once more here. Okay. So this is the same as this is our f of x graph. I just draw once more here. Okay. And what is the question? Determine the range of f of x graph. This is our point A, and at this point what is the coordinate? -1, 0. Do you remember previous question we did that one? This is our point B, and what is our coordinate? 3, 0. Okay. Now what is the meaning of a range? Range means for this graph what are the possible y values? Let me repeat once more. What is the meaning of range? Range means for this graph, what are the possible y values? Okay, so let me ask you something. If I take a y value here, okay, so I can find two x values. One is here and one is here. Am I right? Or if I look at this one, this graph is going up. Here also it's going up. So if I take any y value here, I can find two x values there. Am I right? X value means here at this point, this is the x value. At this point, this is the x value, this one. Okay. So if I take a y value here, I can find the x value. So there is no problem. Okay. If I take a point here, can I find any x value? Yes, on this y value, I can find 2 points on the graph. That means 2 x values. If I take a point here, there also you can see that I can find 2 points on the graph. If I take a y value here, there also I can see that I will get 2 points on the graph. If I take a point here, I'm talking about the y value. Okay, if I take a y value here at this point, I can find 2 points. If I take a y value here, there also I can find 2 points. Okay, if I take a point here, y value here, there how many points on the graph? Only 1 point. Okay, that is also fine. I can find a point on the graph. Okay, but if I take a point somewhere after this point, somewhere here, if I take a y value here, can I find a point on the graph? There is no graph here because the graph finish up to here. Am I right? So if I take a point anything beyond that, beyond this turning point, I can't find any point on the graph. Do you understand? If I take any y value below this turning point, I can't find any point on the graph. It means that the y value for the possible y value for this graph is the minimum one is this one at that turning point or above that turning point. Okay, so the minimum turning point on minimum y value here, so this is the turning point. Okay, so if you can find the what is the y value of this point, then we can say that above that y value is possible y values or range. Range means possible y values. Okay, so how can we find, listen once more before I go to the next one. If I find a point, what is the y value of this point? Okay, let me say, I'm just giving an example. I don't know it's correct or we are going to find that one. Okay, let me say this is -3. Okay, just an example. Okay, if y value is -3, then I can say that when y is greater than -3, this is greater than, okay, when y is greater than -3, that is a range, because we know that if we take a point less than -3, for example -4, is there any graph there? No graph there. Okay, so anyway we have to find this minus 3, I'm just giving an example. Okay, you have to find the correct point there. Okay, so anyway, we have to find the y value of this coordinate, this point. We have to find the y value of this point. Then we can say that greater than that y value, that is a range. Okay, so for that, how can we find the y value of that point? You know that is a turning point. Okay, so now try to understand like this. How many marks for that question? Only 3 marks. Okay, so try to understand like this. If you draw a graph, if you draw a parabola like this, okay, if you draw a parabola like this, okay, and this is the turning point, and then, okay, let me draw another parabola, sorry for that. Okay, if you draw a parabola like this, and this one is the turning point. Okay, and now try to understand like this. The line passes through this turning point is called the axis of symmetry. What is the name of this line? This is the axis of symmetry. Okay, so based on this axis of symmetry, this distance and this distance are the same. If this distance is 5, this distance is also 5. Okay, so here at this point, what is the x value? Minus 1. Okay, and this point, what is the x value? It is 3. Am I right? X value is 3 and y value is 0 at B. Okay, and here it is minus 1 comma 0 at this point A. Okay, so now try to understand this axis of symmetry. This is our minus 1, this point is our minus 1, and this point is our, what is the x value there? 3. Okay, and the axis of symmetry passes through the turning point, or we can say that this point is the middle point of this minus 1 and 3. Okay, this point, that means the axis of symmetry point, x value of the axis of symmetry. Okay, so this axis of symmetry, or this is the axis of symmetry. Okay, axis of symmetry passes through the turning point. This is the axis of symmetry. Okay, and that this x value is the middle of this A and B. Okay, so how can you find the middle point of this A and B, even though the graph doesn't look like that? Okay, but you have to understand that. Okay, this distance and this distance are the same. Our graph is not accurate, that's why it doesn't looks like that. Okay, but try to understand that this axis of symmetry passes through the turning point. Okay, so how can I find the x value of this point? That is the middle of this A and B. Okay, so how can I find the middle of that A and B? X is equal to, you have to find the you have to use the midpoint formula, x1 plus x2, x1 plus x2 divided by 2. So what is x1? Minus 1 plus, what is x2? It is 3 divided by 2. So minus 1 plus 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so it means that here the x value is 1. Okay, so what is the x value here at this point? This is the axis of symmetry. If here the x value is 1, it means that here the x value at this point also x value is 1. Okay, now how can I find the y value of that point? I know the equation of that graph, y is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. So at this point, what is the x value? X value I got as 1. So how can I find the y value? I have to substitute that in here in this equation. Okay, so let me substitute that in that equation. So x is equal, therefore y is equal to x square minus 2x minus 3. Okay, so y is equal to, what is x value I got? 1. So 1 square minus 2 into 1 minus 3. That means y is equal to 1 minus 2. Okay, 1 minus 2 minus 3. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Minus 1 minus 3 is minus 4. So it means that at this point the y value is minus 4. It means here it is minus 4. Okay, now we can say that when y is greater than minus 4, that is the range. Why we can say like that? Because when the value of y is less than minus 4, you can't find any graph there. Am I right? Okay, therefore range is y greater than or equal to minus 4. Okay, either minus 4 also there is a point, okay, on the graph. Okay, but below minus 4 there is no point. Okay, above minus 4 there are points on the, we can find the points on the graph. Okay, so that is the range y greater than or equal to minus 4. So listen once more, guys, listen once more. What is the question? You have to find the range of this f of x graph. Okay, range means what? Y values. Okay, where the y value is it must be above this turning point, then only we can find the y values, because below this turning point there is no y value, there is no graph below that turning point. Okay, so how can I find the y value of this turning point? That is what we are trying to find. Okay, so this turning point, through this turning point the axis of symmetry passing. Okay, so how can I find the axis of symmetry equation? Axis of symmetry is the middle of this A and B. Okay, that means A is x value is minus 1, B x value is 3. So what is the middle? Minus 1 plus 3 divided by 2. That means on this axis of symmetry the x value is 1. So we know that at this turning point the x value is 1. Now how can I find the y value? At this point y we know, that is the equation of the graph. So we substitute the value of x as 1 in that equation. Okay, then there we got the y value of that turning point, that is minus 4. So once if we know the y value of the turning point, we can say that when y is greater than minus 4, that is the range. Okay, so therefore range is y greater than or equal to minus 4. Okay, that is question number 6.3, and let's go to 6.4. Okay, question number 6.4. 6.4. If Mn is equal to 6, determine the length of OT if t lies on the negative x-axis. Okay, show all your working. So what are they saying? If Mn is equal to 6 centimeter or 6 units, okay, so the length of this line Mn, M is here on f of x graph and n is here on g of x graph. Okay, what is the equation of g of x? The first question we got g of x as x plus 1. Do you remember that one? Okay, g of x is x plus 1 and f of x is x square minus 2x minus 3. Okay, now what is given? If Mn is equal to, see, they are saying that the distance from this point M to this point N is 6 units. Okay, and what do you want to find? Determine the length of OT. This is O. Okay, you have to find this distance O to T, this distance. That is the question. Okay, so if you want to find this distance, once if you know what is the x value here, listen very carefully. Assume that this is the point T. Okay, and if I am saying that at this point T it is x value is minus 5 comma, I mean the coordinate of this point is minus 5 comma 0, then what is the meaning of that? This distance is what? 5 centimeter. Am I right? Because here if the coordinate is minus 5 comma 0 means that this distance is 5 centimeter. Okay, so it means that if you want to find the x value, I mean if you want to find the length of this OT, it is enough to find the coordinate of this x value of this point T. Am I right? If you want to find the length of this OT, it is enough to find the x value of this point at T. Then we can say that that one is the, here what is the x value? Minus 5. So what is the length of this one? It is 5 units. You understand? So here question is to find the length of OT. So it is enough to find the x coordinate of that point T. Then we can say that that is the length of OT. Okay. So that is what we are trying to do. Now try to understand like this. What is given? Mn is given. Am I right? What is Mn? Mn is 6 units. Okay. So it is given that Mn is equal to 6. Okay, now how can you find the Mn? How can you find Mn? What is Mn? Mn is the distance between this point and this point. Am I right? This point lies on which graph? F of x graph. Okay, and this point lies on which graph? G of x graph. So it means that Mn is the distance between f of x graph and g of x graph. Okay, so we can write it like this. Mn is distance between f of x and g of x graph. So how can you find the distance between f of x and g of x graph? This f of x graph at this point minus g of x graph, there, that is the distance Mn. Okay, so what is f of x graph? X square minus 2x minus 3. Okay, minus, okay, then what is g of x graph? X plus 1. When you subtract that two graphs, the distance is 6 units, because this point M is a point on f of x graph and this point N is a point on g of x graph, and they are saying that the distance between that two points are 6 units. That means this f of x minus g of x is equal to 6 units. You know, those who didn't understand this one also, let's try to understand like this. You know that f of x is the same as y. Am I right? Okay, so at this is our point M. So f of x means y. So this y value, assume that this y value is let's say my 5 units. Okay, and g of x is also y. Okay, so at this is our n. G of x is equal to, let's say this is 3 units, I mean minus 3. Okay, so how can I find this length Mn? This 5 minus this 3, that means 5 minus minus 3, that is 8 units. That means this one is 8 units. That means from here what is a y minus here what is a y? You know, y is the same as f of x. That is why we are doing like this. That f of x minus this f of x, that is y of this f of x graph minus y of this g of x graph, that is 6 units. Okay, now we have to solve that one and find the value of x. So let's try to solve that one. This is x square minus 2x minus 3, minus into x is, expand the bracket, minus x, minus into plus 1 is minus 1. Take this 6 to this side, so it is minus 6 is equal to 0. So what is this one? X square, look at this one, minus 2x minus x is minus 3x, minus 2x minus x is minus 3x. Now what is this one? Minus 3 minus 1 minus 4, minus 4 minus 6 minus 10 is equal to 0. Now you have to factorize that one. What are the factors, guys? So it is x minus 5, x plus 2, minus 5 into 2 is minus 10, minus 3. Okay, so what are the x values? Either x minus y is equal to 0, either this one is equal to 0 or this one is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. So from here what is x? Take this minus y to the other side, so it is positive 5. Here x is equal to, take this plus 2 to the other side, so it is minus 2. So what is the x value at this point? Is it 5 or minus 2? Of course this side x value is negative, am I right? So it means that at this point it implies that excuse me, so at this point x is equal to minus 2. So x is equal to minus 2 means at this point the value of x is minus 2. So now can you say what is the length of this OT? Yeah, now you know that if this point x value is minus 2 means this OT is 2 units. It implies that OT is equal to 2 units. If here it is minus 2, then the length of that OT is 2 units. Okay. So that is question number 6.4.1. Now let's go to question number 6.4.2. Okay, question number 6.4.2. 6.4.2. What is that question? Hence, write down the coordinates of n. You have to find the coordinates of n. This n. What are the coordinates of this n? Okay, so this is a straight line, am I right? And this line is parallel to the y-axis. So here at this point the x value is minus 2. We already found that one. Okay, so what is the x value of this point? It's a straight line. If here it is x, and also it's parallel to the y-axis, that is important. If it is like this, we can't write like that. Okay, so here x value is minus 2. So what is the x value of this point n? There also the x value is minus 2. Am I right? Okay, so now where is that point G? Where is that point n? That is on g of x graph. Do you remember g of x graph is, we already find the equation of g of x, that is x plus 1. G of x is the same as y is equal to x plus 1. So at this point n, what is the x value we got? Minus 2. So how can we find the y value? Y is equal to, we have to substitute that x value as minus 2. So it is minus 2 plus 1. So y is equal to minus 1. So it implies that the coordinate of n is, x value is minus 2 and the y value is minus 1. Simple question. Okay, so the coordinate of n is minus 2 comma minus 1. So that is question number 6.4.2. Now we have to go to 6.5. Question number 6.5. What is that question? Determine the equation of the tangent to f drawn parallel to G. Wow. What is that question? Determine the equation of the tangent to f drawn parallel to G. What is the meaning of that question? Whoa. Okay. Now read that question once more. 6.5. Determine the equation of the tangent to f that is drawn parallel to G. So you have to find the equation of a tangent to what? This parabola graph, and that tangent must be parallel to G. So this is our g of x graph, and we have to draw a tangent parallel to this G. So if we can't draw a line here, and we can't say that that is tangent, because if we draw a line parallel to G, it means it will cut here and here also. Am I right? So the only possibility is you have to draw somewhere here a line like this. Now we can see that it is touching that point only once. Okay, so that must be a straight line. Okay, so you can see that it is touching this graph only at this point, not at this turning point. So it is touching the graph only at this point. So don't think that that is a turning point. Let me erase this one, and this is the turning point, and the tangent point is somewhere next to that one. Okay, and this is the tangent point. Okay, so we draw a tangent parallel to G. Tangent of what? Tangent of f of x, and you have to find the equation of this tangent. That is the question. Okay, now how can you find how can you find the equation of that tangent? What is the tangent? Tangent is a straight line. So what is the general equation? Y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. This is the equation of a straight line. Since tangent is a straight line, we can write that equation: y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. Okay, so here what is this m stands for? M stands for the gradient of that tangent. Am I right? M stands for the gradient of that tangent. Okay, so what is the equation of this g of x? We already know g of x, we already find g of x is equal to x plus 1. You remember that one? So here what is the gradient? G of x, it is coefficient of x, that is 1. So it means that the gradient of this tangent is also 1. Why? Because this g of x is parallel to this tangent. So the gradient of this, our tangent, is also, we can say that it is 1. Okay, so the gradient of the tangent, or the value of this m, is 1, or m is equal to 1, because that line, it is given that this tangent is parallel to g of x. And what is the equation of g of x? X plus 1. What is the gradient? 1. So here this one is gradient is 1. Okay, now listen here, we don't know what is the coordinate of this one. If we know the coordinate of this one, x value and y value, then it is easy, our work done, almost finished, because we can just substitute the values of x1 and y1 of that point. Okay, not this turning point, is not passing through the turning point, don't forget that. Okay, so we have to know what is the point of, at this point, what is the value. Okay, now for that, what you have to do is, now we have to, our aim is to find that x and y values at that point, touching point. Okay, now try to understand like this. What is the equation of f of x? It is given in the question: x square minus 2x minus 3. Am I right? X square minus 2x minus 3. Okay, so in calculus section we studied that how to find the gradient of a point, I mean gradient of a tangent passing through a point. How to find the gradient of a tangent passing through a point. In calculus section, what you studied? How to find the gradient of a tangent passing through a point. Do you remember that one in calculus? You have to understand like this. To find the gradient of a tangent passing through a point, first you have to find the derivative of this equation. Then you are supposed to substitute the x value of that point. Okay, in calculus you studied how to find the gradient of a tangent passing through a point. What you are supposed to do, you have to find the derivative of this equation. That means f dash of x, and that is what is f dash of x? 2x minus 2x is minus 2. You have to know the calculus section to do this question. Okay, so what is the derivative of this equation? 2x minus 2x derivative is minus 2, constant time derivative is 0. Okay, so this is the derivative of this equation. Okay, and in this derivative you have to substitute the value of x. You have to substitute the value of x at this point. That means this x value you have to substitute. So after you substitute the value of x in this derivative, this is the derivative. Okay, so after you substitute the x value, the answer you are supposed to get is the gradient. But in this question, listen very carefully. First you have to find the derivative, then you are supposed to substitute the x value of that point, that touching point, this point. Okay, so after you substitute the x value, you are supposed to get the gradient. But we already know the gradient of this straight line. What is the gradient of the straight line? It is 1. So it means that after you substitute the x value, you are supposed to get the gradient, and we know that the gradient is 1 because that tangent is parallel to g of x. Okay, so the gradient is 1. So from here, what is 2x is equal to, take this minus 2 to the other side, it is plus 2. So 2x is equal to 3, x is equal to 3 over 2. So it means that here the x value is 3 over 2. Now how can you find the y value? You substitute in that equation f of x. Okay, therefore y is equal to, substitute here, x square, 3 over 2 square minus 2 into 3 over 2 minus 3. So check in your calculator what is answer for that one. Minus 15 over 4. Minus 15 over 4. So here the y value is minus 15 over 4. But that is not our question. What is our question? We have to find the equation of that tangent. So now we know the coordinates, these x1 and y1 we know, and we know the gradient also. So we have to substitute those points on this equation of the straight line. Okay, so now that is what we are going to do. So it is y minus y1. What is y1? Minus 15 over 4. Minus 15 over 4 is equal to m, that is 1, into x minus x1, that is 3 over 2. So we have to simplify this one. This is y plus 15 over 4 is equal to 1 into x is x, 1 into minus 3 over 2 is minus 3 over 2. So what is y? X minus 3 over 2. Take this 15 over 4 to the other side. So it is minus 15 over 4. So check in your calculator what is the answer of this one. Okay, in your calculator, you can try in your calculator. In your calculator you will get minus 21 over 4. Minus 21 over 4. And that is the equation of that tangent. Okay, so listen once more. In a nutshell, question is to find the equation of a tangent passing parallel to g of x. Since g of x equation is x plus 1, the gradient is 1. So what is the gradient of our tangent? Since these two lines are parallel, gradient of the tangent is 1. Okay, at the same time, you have to understand one thing. How can I find the gradient of a tangent in calculus? You have to find the derivative of that curve or the f of x graph. Then in that derivative you have to substitute the value of x at that point. Okay, so after we substitute the x value, we are supposed to get the gradient, but we know that the gradient is, we know the gradient already, it is 1. So that 2x plus 1, that where we substitute the x value, we are supposed to substitute the x value there, and the answer is 1. So from there we got the x value as 3 over 2, and substitute again in that original equation, then you will get a y value. Then here equation of the straight line, then substitute, final answer is x minus 21 over 4. Okay, so watch again and try to understand this. Okay, that is question number 6.5. okay, now 6.6, question number 6.6. so now before I go to question number 6.6, okay, what is the equation of this tangent? Now equation of the tangent is y is equal to x minus 21 over 4. So can you say what is that minus 21 over 4 stands for? What is this minus 21 over stands for? In a y is equal to mx plus c. What is this c stands for? Y intercept. Am I right? Okay, so this minus 21 over 4 stands for the y intercept. So it means that here at this is the y axis. At that point, what is the y value? Minus 21 over 4. Don't forget that. Okay, this is the y intercept. If you write it like this c stands for the y intercept. So here c is minus 21 over 4. That is a y intercept, means that tangent, this is that point y value is minus 21 over 4. Okay, now let's go to question number 6.6, the last question of this question paper graph section. For which value of k, look at question number 6.6, for which value of k will f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3, that parabola, and h of x is equal to x plus k not intersect? So what is our f of x graph? X square minus 2x minus 3. And what is our g of x graph? X plus 1. Do you remember this one? Okay. Now here there is another graph h of x. H of x is equal to x plus k. Okay, and you have to find the value of this k. Okay, now what is the condition? H of x is equal to x plus k not intersect. For which values of k? You have to find the value of k. Will f of x and h of x not intersect? This f of x and h of x graph not intersect, and you have to find the value of that k. Okay, so what is the meaning of that question, guys? You have to read that question again and try to understand. Okay, so listen very carefully. They are asking you have to find the values of this k. Okay, and what is the condition? This f of x graph and h of x graph not intersect. That f of x graph and h of x graph must not intersect or must not touch each other, and you have to find the corresponding value of this k. Okay, so now look at these our two graphs. H of x is equal to g of x is equal to x plus 1 and h of x is equal to x plus k. What is the gradient of this g of x? This one. What is the gradient of this h of x? That one is also 1. Am I right? Okay, so it means that this h of x graph is a graph parallel to this g of x. Am I right? This h of x graph is a graph because the gradients are the same. So this h of x, our new graph h of x, is a graph parallel to the g of x graph, this graph. Okay, and you have to find the value of this k. Okay, so these two graphs does not touch each other. Okay, so now look at this. Let me draw our f of x and the g of x here. This is our f of x graph. This is our f of x graph. Okay, and this is a g of x graph that is parallel to, this is h of x graph that is parallel to g of x. Okay, so if I draw that h of x graph here, okay, assume that this is this one is our g of x graph. This is our g of x graph. Okay, this is our g of x graph. Okay, and I draw k of h of x parallel to g of x. So is it touching f of x? Yes, definitely it is touching here at 2 points. Am I right? But what is our condition? Not intersect. This f of x graph and the h of x graph does not intersect. This red one is the h of x graph, does not intersect. So here we can't draw like this because it is intersecting the f of x graph. Okay, what about here? If I draw h of x like this, if this one is h of x, there also it is not possible because it is intersecting the f of x graph. Okay, what about here? There also it is not possible because this h of x, this is our h of x graph, and there is an intersecting point. That means that tangent, but this is a tangent that I draw. Okay, but if I draw a h of x below this point, below this touching point, tangent point, okay, then if this one is h of x graph, then we can say that this h of x and this f of x are not intersecting. Can you see that? Okay, so it means that if this h of x, if we draw below this tangent, okay, then that f of x and g of x, f of x and h of x graph. What is f of x graph? parabola, am I right? This is our f of x graph. Okay, so if I draw a h of x below that tangent point, then it won't intersect. This h of x and f of x does not intersect. Okay, so we already know what is the equation of this tangent point. Is it not that our g of x, this line, tangent line? Okay, what is the equation of that time, this one? What is the equation on the previous question? Previous question we got that equation as y is equal to x minus 21 over 4, that tangent, this one. Okay, so here what is the y-intercept? Minus 21 over 4. I told you here the y-intercept is minus 21 over 4. Okay, now we can say that our g of x graph must be below that tangent one. Our g of x graph, our h of x graph must be below that tangent one. Then only this h of x and this parabola or f of x graph does not intersect. Okay, so here what is this k stands for here? K stands for the y-intercept. Okay, so in this graph, in this tangent, what is the y? Minus 21 over 4. So it means that if I draw h of x below that one, below this y value minus 21 over 4, this h of x and this parabola does not intersect. If I draw any h of x below that tangent, it won't intersect. Okay, so at the tangent, what is the y-intercept? Minus 21 over 4. So it means that if the y value is less than minus 21 over 4, the new graph is not going to intersect this parabola. Okay, so it means that this k stands for what? Y-intercept. So if y is less than minus 21 over 4, then this one does not intersect. Our h of x and this parabola does not intersect. So what is this y stands here? It is k. So we can say that therefore k is less than minus 21 over 4. So when k is less than minus 21 over 4, this h of x graph and this parabola does not intersect. So the answer is k is less than minus 21 over 4. So guys, that is November 2018 graphs and functions. Okay, it's a lengthy questions. Yeah, question number 4, 5. How many questions are there? Question number 4, 5 and 6. Okay, there are a lot of marks. You have to study graphs and functions very clearly. Okay, hope you understand. So see you on the next lesson.